Essentially, what I'm going over today is a giant mega list of all the comic book, zine, manga, and graphic novel publishers that I have found and compiled together in one document here, as you can see. That's like 17 or 18 pages long. I'm going to just go over briefly, almost just like list them out and just briefly go over a little bit about each publisher. And then I will allow you guys to download this document for yourselves. And as you can see, all of them, you can click the links and just go directly to each of these publishers' websites. And some of them link directly to their submissions pages if they offer submissions and things like that. And so you can sort of do your own further research from there. But just to jump right into it, so essentially I call this the Indie Comic Empire's Ultimate Guide to Comic and Graphic Novel Publishers. This list was curated by myself, Lord Max Hoven, but I pulled it from several different resources that I wanted to give shout-outs to. The first one is creatorresource.com. The next one is comicsconnection.net. And both of these websites and communities bring a lot of great information, sometimes free and sometimes paid for. A lot like my YouTube channel and my stuff, and they give a lot of information about what it's like to be an active creator in the comic industry today, and they can answer, and sometimes they'll answer questions like, where do I find agents? What are common page rates? Some of it is up to date and some of it's not, so you have to just pay attention. So that's why I created this list. This is my most up to date for 2024. I linked all my other stuff in the document. And I'm starting this list by order of what I think people are sort of looking for, which is kind of what are the publishers that I, accept submissions that I can get on in sort of the super indie space, and then move up to the indie comic space, and then move up to the direct market, meaning comic shop space, and then mainstream and so on. So, and they're categorized out. So this first subsection I have is called Alternative Comic and Zine Publishers. And what I mean by this is art projects, non-narrative, zines, obscure photo books. So these publishers will publish not just comics, but some of the more obscure stuff. These are comic, manga, and zine retail shops throughout North America and Europe that either act as small press publishers or as distributors buying and selling self-published comics and zines in their physical shops and online. So they're kind of like all dual companies. They're mainly shops that buy books on consignment or whatever, and then they sell your books in their shops. It's not like they hire you out to create comics under their IP. It's more like they're shops that they may have like multiple shops within a certain city or a couple cities that they'll distribute your books through. But that's what all these are. So a lot of them say sort of the same thing. Secret Headquarters, a comic and zine shops based out of Los Angeles, California, that publish and distribute comics and zines from independent creators. Domino Books is a publisher and distributor of artist books, comics, and all types of printed media. Spit and a Half, they focus on small press and self-published comics from around the world, ones that might fall through the cracks more easily and are harder to find. 50 Watt Books, a bookstore with a focus on visually striking and unusual books from around the world. Incredible art books and artist books, surreal picture books, graphic design icons, etc. Glacier Bay, a small independent publisher founded in 2019 in Oregon, USA. They focus on indie and alternative manga, works in translation, contemporary literature and art, and the small press scene. Printed Matter Incorporated. Founded in 1976, Printed Matter Incorporated is the world's leading nonprofit organization dedicated to the dissemination, understanding, and appreciation of artist books and related publications. Wig Shop is an online-only web store that specializes in indie and self-published comics, art books, and more. Birdcage Bottom Books. Our focus is mostly on memoir-style comics. We love highlighting the peculiar, hilarious, and poignant moments of everyday life. Come check out our offerings. Atomic Books, a bookstore in Baltimore, Maryland that sells independent comics, zines, and graphic novels on consignment. All the Old Poisons, online comic, manga, and zine shops selling international titles and self-published titles. Copacetic Comics, online comic and manga and graphic novel shop with their physical shop in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, releases self-published titles including Zines. Partners and Son, another online comic, manga, and zine shop with their physical shop located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And finally, Beguiling Books, a Canadian comic and art shop showcasing the largest selection of alternative, underground, and avant-garde graphic storytelling in the country. Like I was saying, this is where you would start if you created your own book, very much more in the alternative and zine style. Scanned it, made your own kind of art book kind of thing. These are the publishers you'd want to be looking for. The next step I go into is what we call small press creator-owned comic publishers. These are publishers that will often accept and publish creator-owned comics that are black and white and created by early career, often even first-time writers and artists. I'm not going to go into all this. I'll let you guys read this for yourself. But I'll start off with the first one, NE1 World. This is a creator-owned imprint of ASAP Imagination. ASAP Imagination is a comic book publisher based out of the UK that publishes their own IP, but they have this imprint called NE1 World where they publish a wide variety of genres from creator-owned stuff from everywhere. They accept submissions and publish worldwide, both digital and in print within select stores. They're growing. Dead Sky Publishing. They are always on the lookout for fiction, noir fiction, thriller, mystery, gothic fiction, magical realism, literary horror, science fiction, fantasy, and speculative fiction story. They even accept novels, novellas, and creative samples and or story series proposals for comics. Afterlight Comics. Afterlight Comics is an independent horror comics publisher based in Wales, the UK. Established by writer-founder Joseph Oliveira in late 2018. Most of their sales are done via Kickstarter, but they are quickly growing, and they are known for the quality horror books. Committed Comics. They release only a small amount of titles, mostly sexy action-adventure comics. One First Comics, a long-standing small press publisher founded in Chicago in the early 1980s. First Comics built its reputation on cutting-edge titles, an eye for talent, and a commitment to retailer support and creators' rights. Lesser Known Comics, a newer publisher founded in 2020 that releases a wide variety of titles and genres, including zines and mature content. And finally, in this category, Wildstar Press mostly publishes graphic novels of broad, young adult, and middle-aged genres like action, adventure, and slice of life, founded in 2019. Moving on to the next level, I call this direct market comic book publishers mid-level. So these are publishers that have a relationship with Diamond and other distributors such as Lunar and sometimes Simon & Schuster for bookstores as a distribution deal. Thus, they can put your comic as available for sale in the direct market, which is comic shops in North America and some parts of Europe. However, since these publishers are quite small, I note that it's up to the creator to have an audience big enough to demand a print run large enough to ensure mass distribution and profit. As you'll see me explain in other videos, that just because you get on a publisher like one of these, it does not guarantee that you will be able to profit from your books because they are still relatively small in the grand scheme. They might be big in the indie space, but in the grand scheme of books and comics in general, they're still very small. Watch my video on the size of the comic industry. Alright, I start off with Band of Bards, a fairly new but quickly growing publisher accepting submissions in multiple genres. In 2024, they made this announcement that they are a worker-owned cooperative. In a worker-owned co-op, the employees themselves collectively own and manage the business. I'm intrigued to see how that goes. The next one, Blood Moon Comics, a newer publisher founded a few years ago, known for releasing high-quality horror, sci-fi, and fantasy comics. Aftershock Comics, a comics publisher that describes itself as a hybrid comic book company combining the creative edge and an independent comic book publisher with the strengths and experience of a traditional powerhouse. That's directly from their website. AWA Studios stands for Artists, Writers, and Artisans. They are a creative business owned and operated by creators. They say that they offer the best deals for creators and the best purchasing terms for comic retailers. Next one, Ablaze Publishing. Ablaze is a publishing company releasing a variety of titles in different formats, genres, and age ranges. Original material, crowdfunded titles, reprints, art books, etc. They even have some titles from Europe and Asia, as they note Manga, Manhwa, Webtoons, and more. Asylum Press is a publishing company that produces premium comic books and graphic novels within the horror, science fiction, and action genres. Caliber Comics, more than a comic publisher, they're also known for novels and art books. They only release a few titles per year in various genres. Bad Idea is a very new comic book publisher known for only releasing physical comics in comic shops and launching titles on Kickstarter. They don't release digital comics as of 2024. They don't release trades, and they're focusing on keeping the comic shops alive. I actually noted that from just recently, a few weeks ago at C2E2. They made an announcement that was basically what I summed up there. Black Mask Studio is a comic book publisher that is a subsidiary of Epitaph Records. They haven't updated their website in years, nor released that many new titles. This is a company that used to be a pretty big in the indie space, and I noted that I haven't seen them do much in the past 5 to 10 years compared to what they used to break records and win awards. Mad Cave Studios. Now, on the opposite end, this company just gets bigger and bigger every year. So, a rising indie publisher releasing many titles within multiple genres per year. They have contests to try to find new talent. They just recently acquired Paper Cuts. So, Paper Cuts is a smaller graphic novel publisher that's now an imprint of Mad Cave. And they publish comics and graphic novels aimed at children and preteens. And they just, I think, started licensing Disney properties. Next one, No Brow Press, a comics publisher with a focus on more indie titles and creators known for creating very beautiful books. Next one, Scout Comics, a creator-owned comics publisher that also has a subscription box available for their series. They're focused heavily on turning their creator IP into major film and TV properties. I have been published with Scout Comics. They're actually who published my debut printed comic book. Before them, I only had comics online, like webcomics on Webtoon and Tapastic and other things like that. They sort of broke me into my career. They have had some controversies recently, but you can watch a separate video on that topic and my take on that scenario. Next one, Sumerian Comics, which is formerly known as Behemoth Comics, publishes mostly action, sci-fi, mystery, and horror comics, both creator-owned and licensed material from major motion pictures such as American Psycho, video games like Watch Dogs, and musical albums from, of course, Sumerian Records bands. They are also distributed by Massive Publishing, who I'll bring up later in the next category, and that is another publisher that I've worked directly with. SourcePoint Press, a well-established small press publisher with quality titles. SourcePoint publishes books, comic books, and graphic novels. Working with both industry legends and new talents on the rise, they strive to bring you the best storytelling in horror, sci-fi, pulp, and the supernatural. Antarctic Press, wide variety of content released, including manga magazines. Antarctic Press is a Texas-based company that was started in 1984. Since then, they have grown to become one of the largest publishers of comics in the United States. I talk about some of these other publishers as they come up in other categories later, and I can explain a little bit more. Next one, Red 5 Comics. Red 5 Comics creates and produces cinematic-style comic book entertainment. It earned the 2007 Jim Award for Best New Publisher, and its titles have been nominated for 3 Eisner Awards and 2 Harvey Awards, but they haven't done much in recent years. Since 2007, that's been a while at this point. And last but not least, Comics Experience, also known as CEX. CEX is driven to support comics creators, retailers, and fans. They believe that comics are more than just a reading experience. They are a community. So not just are they a publisher, they are a community that you can subscribe to, and they give all kinds of industry advice, including legal advice. Next category, we move on to mainstream creator-owned indie publishers, or what I put in parentheses here, top level. So these are publishers with a large enough general reader base that simply getting published by them can ensure mass distribution through the direct market, also known as the comic shops, and often result in profit on your series with just basic marketing. But I will stress that just because you get on these publishers, they do not necessarily guarantee ultra success and mega profit. And you can, like I said, watch my other videos for more details there. However, these are the toughest publishers to get on within the independent space, meaning not Marvel and DC. But these are so mainstream that those that are active in comics most likely will know all of these names except for a few. The first one I have on here is Boom Studios. This is a publisher with a few imprints and specializes in comics and graphic novels. They have a ton of huge mega IP under their belt. They do licensed properties and they do creator-owned. Probably the most popular is the James Tynion stuff, Something is Killing the Children, and all the associated titles with that IP. The next one is Dark Horse. Dark Horse does a lot of license and work for hire projects, but they also do publish creator-owned projects. The next one is Massive Publishing. Although this is a very new publisher, they were established in 2022. It was founded under the banner and backing of the tech giant Whatnot Incorporated, giving them access to a wide pool of licensed IP, established industry talent, mainstream convention access, along with worldwide mainstream distribution and management partnerships. I note all that because I have worked directly with this publisher. It was formerly, whenever it was established, known as Whatnot Publishing, and then it was under the publishing arm of Whatnot Incorporated, which you may know the Whatnot app. But since then is rebranded to its own Massive Publishing label, and I'm still working with them to this day, and I just wanted to note a little bit about them since they are a huge publisher with a lot of great titles under their belt that sell at levels that are equivalent to all the top ones such as Boom, Dark Horse, Image, etc. But they're so new that people still just don't know much about them. So on to the next, Heavy Metal. This is a long-standing and world-famous sci-fi and fantasy magazine. I grew up with it. I'm a 90s baby. So I knew all about this. But what they do with comics is sort of changes year to year. The next one, Humanoids, an international publisher of graphic novels known for its oversized editions. They also publish middle grade and young adult graphic novels and have varied number of titles in Europe and the U.S. They are highly selective, and they release sort of almost, this would be like mainstream alternative publishers, I feel like, even though a lot of their stuff is like sci-fi. IDW Publishing. This is a publisher of comic books, graphic novels, art books, and comic strip collections. They have a number of licensed and work for hire projects, but they also do take on some creator-owned works as well. The next one is probably the most famous, Image Comics, probably the most well-known creator-owned publisher in modern comics. Their main imprint is 100% creator-owned. Some of their other imprints, such as the one I talk about later, that's done by Robert Kirkman, I don't think is 100% creator-owned. I think they hire out the talent that they're looking for. The next one, Oni Press, a comic book publisher that has been around since the 1990s, known for releasing young adult creator-owned titles along with licensed IP such as Rick and Morty. I think their most famous one is probably Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Shadowline, an imprint of Image Comics headed by Jim Valentino. Skybound, an imprint of an Image Comics run by Robert Kirkman. Like I was just saying, their books are not true creator-owned. The ownership split is usually 50-50 between the writer and Skybound. The artist gets paid Marvel and DC rates and is brought on in a work-for-hire capacity. That is actually a direct note that I got from one of those comics collectives that I was talking about at the very beginning. Top Shelf, comics and graphic novel publisher that was bought and is now owned by IDW Publishing. Vault Comics is an American publisher of comic books. The company is known for its horror, fantasy, and science fiction titles with a focus on diversity and cross-media properties. That's another one that, much like Scout, I think they convert a lot of their properties into film and TV stuff. Last one, Wonderbound Comics, an imprint of Vault Comics dedicated to publishing middle grade and young adult comics. Right, and now we move on to work-for-hire publishers. So these are publishers that only publish comics and graphic novels under IP they fully own, and they hire writers and artists to create content under their brand, and often in their universe. Many of these publishers hire creators at standard professional rates and will accept portfolio submissions from artists and writers, but they don't accept submissions of creator-owned projects. Okay, so we start off with 2000 AD, a British publisher that releases a weekly sci-fi comics magazine known for Judge Dredd. I noted that. Archie Comics, known for the Archie universe, as everyone knows, which consists of Archie, Jughead, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and so on. Aspen Comics, a publisher that produces comics and figurines. Black Box Comics is an independent publisher based in New York. Boom Studios that I mentioned earlier, of course, they hire stuff out. Chapter House Comics or Lev Gleason Comics, a Canadian comic book publisher that puts out new stories featuring classic Canadian characters. Dark Horse, a comics publisher with a mix of licensed work for hire properties as well as a creator-owned line, as I mentioned earlier. You'll see them mention them a third time because they have a manga imprint. DC Comics. If you don't know DC Comics, one of the big two, then I don't even know why you're watching this video. Dynamite Entertainment, a publisher that deals mostly in licensed comics on a work-for-hire basis. IDW Publishing. As I mentioned earlier, they do creator-owned stuff, but mostly what they do is license out for their licensed material, or hire out for their licensed material. Mad Cave Studios, they will hire creators to work for stuff on their behalf. Marvel Comics, another one of the big two. If you don't know their characters, then I don't know what you're doing. Skybound, an imprint of Image Comics that I mentioned earlier. Titan Comics, a UK-based publisher of comics, graphic novels, fiction, and licensed work. TKO Studios. This is, I think, one that's unusual in that they release their own IP with their own universe, and they hire people out, and they only release collected editions and trade paperbacks. They don't release floppies. Top Cow Production, as I mentioned earlier, an imprint of Image Comics, and they are mainly work for hire. Valiant Comics, a comics publisher that has their own superhero line and shared universe. They do comics, digital series, and produce films based on their properties. I think their most famous one is Bloodshot. Zenescope, a comics publisher with a focus on reinvented fairy tales for adults, fantasy, and horror. Alright, finally, we're on to the next. We're getting close to the end here, guys. We're on to manga publishers, and whenever I have to specify here that this is not like overseas manga. These are Western publishers for the most part that publish English language manga. So these are comic and graphic novel publishers that either release comics and graphic novels in a standard American format. When I say format, I mean like by the size of the book. And I put the specifications here, basically 7 by 10.5, but with an Eastern Japanese art and story style. Or they publish comics online and in a manga tankobon format, which is that smaller square, like 5 by 7.5 inches, but they publish them with English dialogue. And some still read back to front or right to left, like Japanese manga. But I know that it's sort of a weird topic of trying to understand, like, what is Western manga, what are manga publishers. It's not really one single thing. That's why I specify. I have a list here that are all a little bit different in what they do, but I think most people would understand that what they do is they do publish manga or Eastern influence style books. Okay, so I start off with NBM Graphic Novels. NBM is recognized as one of the highest quality graphic novel publishing houses in America. They launch maybe one artist a year. They receive many submissions. To get an idea of the kind of quality they look for, they mentioned to go to look at this other stuff that they have released. Like I said, you can click all of these and go directly to their websites. This one, Dark Horse Manga, arguably the #1 creator-owned Western manga publisher that accepts submissions. Dark Horse accepts 2 types of unsolicited submissions: art samples and or story series proposals from writer-artists and writer-artist teams. Hakusensha, this is a Japanese manga publisher that accepts submissions from authors and artists from around the world, but as I specify here, you have to submit to them in Japanese. Like, you have to be able to read and write, speak Japanese, so it's most likely better to work with them. You'll want to have a book that is either co-created with someone that is a native Japanese person or at least speaks the language. Next one, Tuttle Publishing. They are focused on strictly Asian-related materials ranging from cookbooks and picture books all the way to comics, anthologies, and manga. They do accept submissions. Tokyo Pop is a mainstream worldwide manga publisher that doesn't openly accept submissions, but they do license rights to English language, manga, and comic IP, who may have been originally self-published or under a small press publisher. Seven Seas Entertainment doesn't accept creator-owned submissions, but they do create and curate English language original titles. One of Seven Seas' areas of expertise is creating original English language manga. Image Comics, as I've mentioned before, although they mainly do, this is one of those ones that they release everything in an American size and style, but they do often look and publish work with young and aspiring authors that have an Eastern style. Antarctic Press. They even have been described as a Manga, founded by creator Ben Dunn. Active creators and YouTubers such as me, they have been published by them, and they call their work manga. And like Antarctic Press has a manga magazine that you can get published in as well, not just an original series. All right, and finally, Uncivilized Books. They are a boutique comic publishing house based out of Minneapolis, and they release both comics and graphic novels with international and alternative influence, including manga-style comics and graphic novels. All right, we're now on to webcomics and digital publishers. This is another one where I have to specify clearly what exactly these are, because you'll learn, for instance here, Webtoon. Webtoon is in a very much scroll format. It is definitely its own thing in the sense that the comics are formatted to be scrolled and read downward, and they're very, I would say, like zoomed in. These other ones, such as these apps, Global Comics Omnibus app, they are read as if you're reading like the old school Comixology, left to right, as if you're just reading a digital version of an actual American floppy comic. But we'll start up here. Hiveworks, a creator-owned comics and graphic novel publisher with a focus on free-to-read webcomics. The next one, Webtoon. This is a platform where any creator can upload their own work and grow an audience organically. Webtoon originals are comics that have been acquired by the company to be created exclusively for the platform. Webtoon is a gigantic platform worldwide. You'll get the biggest audience with them, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll get paid at all. Tapas, it's very similar in format and like a platform to Webtoon, just with not as much of an audience. It's still a huge audience, though. The D-Reader app, or the D-Publisher app, is for creators in Web3. This is a new Web3 app operating on the carbon-neutral blockchain known as Solana. It allows creators to upload original content to a growing audience. I will make a separate video on what exactly does it mean to work in Web3. Essentially what it means is that they allow you to have digital collectibles that can't be copied. So whenever you download a comic in Web3, it's yours, and no one can copy and send it to somebody else. It makes everything original, so you can get digitally signed comics and rare comics and things like that in a digital space. There's a lot more to it. But the Omnibus app. This is not a publisher of creator-owned or even licensed material. This releases digital copies to read or download via their app from top publishers. It's mainly just a digital app. It's not really a publisher. But they act as if they're still very new. My comics are on this app. Global Comics. This is a new and growing digital platform allowing creators to earn sales directly from their readers based on paid downloads. It's also it's growing a lot. Every year I feel like they get a whole lot bigger. Manga Plus is a large and growing manga digital platform. They are delivered by, I can't even say that whole thing. This is the publisher behind popular manga such as One Piece and Spy vs. Family. KeenSpot. KeenSpot is an online entertainment network comprised of a number of exclusive webcomics. They operate Comics Genesis, formerly known as KeenSpace, a free web hosting and automation service for comic creators. And finally, Comixology, or Comixology Originals. What used to be an easy-to-use app and platform is now simply Amazon Kindle. Comixology Unlimited allows you to read freely from thousands of titles, including comic books, etc., but they can only be read via Kindle. Alright, we're now down to the mainstream graphic novel publishers. So these are books that do not release in comic shops. They release directly to bookstores. So these are publishers that are so massive and have such a wide reach that they are extremely selective. Most, if not all, of these publishers can only be contacted through a literary agent. You can obviously email these publishers, but if you want to contact them to submit to them, they will send it away. They don't even let you can maybe sometimes reach out to an editor, but primarily in order to get on one of these publishers, you have to have an agent, specifically a literary agent. You can visit my website, hovencrow.com/shop, and the link is right there for more information on how you can contact and pitch an agent, or sometimes even these publishers. Real fast down the line, we have Amulet Books, a graphic novel imprint of Abrams. Capstone Publishing, a book publisher that acquires a wide variety of content across different mediums from picture books, interactive books, and graphic novels. First Second is a graphic novel publisher located in New York City. Graphics, a graphic novel imprint of Scholastic Books. Harper Alley, a graphic novel imprint of HarperCollins. I think they also allow you to create your own comics through their little portal. They have an app where you can create comics with them. Insight Comics, a publisher that acquires graphic novels, licensed properties, and more. Little B Books, a publisher of children's books and graphic novels. Random House Graphic, obviously Random House, one of, if not the biggest publisher. Razorbill is an imprint of Penguin, another. I think now Penguin and Random House are the same thing. And finally, Simon & Schuster, one of the big five of book publishing, and does have a line of graphic novels. All right, I think we're now getting to the very last category. Nope, not even the last. But this is small press graphic novel publishers. These are publishers that are small or mid-size, often distributed through their own direct methods, or on an open source platform rather than traditional bookstore distribution catalogs. They often accept submissions from creators, and they release high quality books, and they can get your books into select bookstores worldwide. I start off with Avery Hill, a publisher based out of London that aims to represent less mainstream creators in their works. Cloudscape Comics, a small press publisher that typically puts out anthologies and funds projects via Kickstarter. Conundrum Press, a Canadian graphic novel publisher. Iron Circus, a comics publisher with a focus on anthologies, graphic novels, erotica, and collected online comics. Power and Magic Press, a comics publisher that is known for their anthologies. Renegade Arts Entertainment, a Canadian publisher that produces comic books, audiobooks, movies, animation, and novels. Shortbox, they are a comics publisher that does quarterly independent comics boxes featuring their new titles. And T.O. Comics, a small press publisher that typically puts out anthologies and funds projects via Kickstarter. And finally, comic strip publishers. I only have two here, and these are probably the two only places left that actually publish print strips in newspapers. The first one is called King Features. With one of the longest running consumer products programs in history, King's Features portfolio includes pop culture brands such as Popeye, Olive Oil, which is also, I thought, a part of Popeye, The Phantom, Hagar the Horror, Mandrake the Magician, and so on. They are behind the Cuphead show, which is now on Netflix, and so on. And I think that they are owned by the William Randolph Hearst Corporation, so they're in all of those, the San Francisco Chronicle, Times Union, and other ones. And then the next one is called The Nib. This is a publisher of political cartoons and nonfiction comics about what is going down in the world, founded in 2013. I pulled this directly off their website. Provides political satire, journalism, essays, and memoir and comics form. A proud independent publisher. I think both of these companies allow you to submit your work to them as well. Like I said, you can download all this from my website, hovencrow.com, or specifically in the, if you join my newsletter, you can just download this for free. It's also available in the Indie Comic Empire, the hovencrow.com shop, and things like that. If you go to my website, you'll find all this stuff and everything else that I offer. So, all right, thanks a lot, everybody. I'll just stop at that.